A little over a month to the start of training camps. Still no progress between the Packers and their AWOL superstar Aaron Rodgers. But if you believe Rodgers' number one target, Davante Adams, none of the Packer players are talking about it. Adams saying, honestly, it's not even something that we truly talk about like that. It's just everybody's been dialed in to what they got to do. I think everybody's mindset, everybody is just going to love Aaron the same way when he returns. And obviously it's been a little bit of a confusing situation, but there hasn't been any negative talk or anything like that. Everybody's behind him. Let's bring in our insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, what do you make of that comment from Adams, and what's the very latest on what you're hearing, if anything, out of the Rodgers camp?
Yeah, there's nothing really new to report about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, unfortunately. I mean, he's dug in on his side. The Packers are dug in on theirs, and frankly, it's going to take the Denver Broncos or the Las Vegas Raiders to not only trade the next 3 first-round draft picks that they have, but probably half the franchise to the town of Green Bay, Wisconsin, in order for anything to happen before the start of training camp. So this is where we're going to be for the next couple of weeks. And really the next logical point for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is the start of training camp, if he's going to show up, if he will incur all of those fines that the CBA deems are necessary and mandatory, that Green Bay can't just wipe away. And so that's really the next point. Until then, it's going to be a stare-off. Folks in Green Bay, the personnel folks there are going to be going on vacation. Aaron Rodgers may be enjoying himself on yet another island getaway. And so I sort of believe Davante Adams, as crazy as that sounds, because what else is there to talk about? It's, okay, is Aaron going to be here or is he not? And if he's not, it's going to be Jordan Love. The rest of it, we have to focus on the guys who are here and getting ourselves prepared. Because as we know, Aaron Rodgers had voiced his frustration with at least one, probably more, of his teammates over the past year. So the revelation is not really new to them. They know about his frustrations, and until there's any news that we can really report, you're kind of wasting energy if you're talking about the what-ifs right now. So if you're the Green Bay Packers and the players there. So for now, there's not going to be anything much more to report. He's dug in on his side. The Packers don't want to trade him, aren't going to trade him, and we're going to see once we get to July 20th to 25th if anything changes, if Aaron Rodgers is going to show up to camp.
Okay, let's talk about some quarterbacks who are happy with their situations. The 2018 draft picks heading into the final year of their rookie deals, which that would include Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. Let's start with Baker and his agent saying that he's hoping to get a deal done this summer. How feasible is that, and what would he demand on the market, given that he's likely the number 3 quarterback in that class, despite being the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, I saw the agent's comments, and I got to say it was a little unusual, Chris, because normally when you are in negotiations, if things are somewhat down the line, you don't go out into the media and talk about the negotiations. You just kind of get it done. And with him talking to a local Cleveland reporter, it seemed to me, and in talking with folks around the league, it seemed to them as well, that this was sort of a leverage play. Go ahead and try to get the fans on your side. Try to get the public on your side. Hey, we're close, so if something doesn't get done, well, just know we were close. We did our job. With Baker, it's difficult because if you're the Cleveland Browns, why do you do it right now? You have Nick Chubb, who you're in contract negotiations with. You have Denzel Ward, who you're in contract negotiations with. But Baker Mayfield, Chris, as you mentioned, out of those 3 is very clearly the number 3 quarterback when you consider Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Baker. And a fantastic season, as we saw right there, 11-5 in the regular season, and getting them deep into the playoffs. But, you know, he had an above-average rookie season. He had a slump in his sophomore campaign, and then he comes back out this past year. He has been paid handsomely as the number 1 overall pick. Has he been paid as much as he's worth? Of course not. And it's very difficult in today's NFL to pay a quarterback what he is truly worth. So the way the game is constructed nowadays. So are they close? What would he command? I'm sure that he would want Dak Prescott money, $40 million per year. I'm sure that if he were reasonable, he would say, oh, let's go mid-30s. Let's get up to $35 million per year. Well, that's Russell Wilson average. And you're going to take Baker Mayfield or Russell Wilson. Baker doesn't have the accolades nearly as much as Russell Wilson does, but we understand that that's not how contracts always work. So if Baker Mayfield and his representation want to get somewhere in that low to mid-30s, 32, 33, I could see it maybe happening. But right now, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I don't see any rush to make any sort of deal with Baker Mayfield, and whatever deal they would make with him, I don't think would be advantageous to Baker in the short or long term. So I don't know how close they are. I'm not sure they're all that close, and I wouldn't at all be surprised if we're in early to mid-September and Baker Mayfield is playing under his same rookie contract.
Okay, so not necessarily believing what Baker Mayfield's agent has to say as of now. Lamar Jackson with a much different kind of agent, JJ. Tell us what kind of role Lamar's mother is going to play in his negotiations.
Yeah, Felicia Jones is his mother, and they have been tied at the hip for Lamar's entire life, and certainly his entire career. You know, I went to Louisville's pro day when Lamar was coming out, and everyone was talking about, wow, you know, he's not going to be represented by an agent. Well, surely by the NFL draft he's going to be, because that'd be a huge mistake. Well, it wasn't a mistake. He got drafted in the first round. He didn't run the 40 at the combine because he didn't have to, because he was the fastest quarterback who was out there. He gets drafted in the first round. He starts in his rookie season. He goes to the playoffs. He wins the MVP the next year. Then the third year, he wins a playoff game. So in short, Felicia Jones and Lamar Jackson, their plan has always worked. It has worked going back to his days in prep ball at Florida. It worked getting him to Louisville. There's this fantastic story about Felicia Jones at Louisville when Lamar Jackson, his freshman year, Louisville needed a punt returner. And so they tried Lamar out at punt returner one day at practice, and the coach, Bobby Petrino, had a phone call from Felicia Jones as soon as they got off the practice field. Lamar Jackson hadn't even gotten to his phone yet, and Felicia was like, hold on now, coach, you remember that you said that you wouldn't let Lamar be a punt returner. He's a quarterback. She has always been on top of this. So it is going to be interesting to see how they negotiate this gigantic deal with the Baltimore Ravens. I can tell you this. I don't at all believe that he is going to get an agent. I do believe that Felicia Jones and Lamar will work this contract out together. Will they have a contract advisor who gets a very, very small percentage, a fraction of a percent? Perhaps. They also have the NFLPA to fall back on, because the PA, the union, is not going to allow Lamar Jackson to sign some bad contract. This isn't Johnny Fontaine with the big band leader in The Godfather. That's not going to happen. But will Felicia and Lamar know the ins and outs of the contract structure? That's something that we're going to have to watch for. I'm certain that she has done plenty of homework. She always has. In my time reporting out that story several years ago, I'm sure that that will be the case. And frankly, I do believe that there's a lot of trust on both sides between the Baltimore Ravens organization and Lamar and his camp. So I do believe that a deal will be struck. I do believe it will be in the neighborhood of $40 million in terms of average annual value. But the structure is going to be something that is going to be very particular that we're going to have to watch.
Mother knows best. That's the situation with Lamar Jackson. We've got one more quarterback to talk about in the 2018 draft class, and he may get the most money. Josh Allen coming off the best season, and there's a report that he's willing to structure a contract that could help the Bills financially. How would that compare to kind of what we saw with Patrick Mahomes, who, yeah, set a bunch of records, broke the bank, but it was a very team-friendly structure in the way they did it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Does Josh Allen want to get $75 million in guaranteed money like Dak Prescott and average $40 million per year? Or does he want $250 million over 10 years and only get $63 million in guaranteed money spread out over several years? The structure of that is what's going to be fascinating. We saw with the Buffalo Bills this past offseason, Matt Milano re-signing with the Bills for far less than he would have gotten out there on the market, even with a dip in the salary cap. due to COVID-19 revenue deficits. So Josh Allen, I do ultimately believe, will have an average of $40 million per year, perhaps even more. I think that he would want to get just a touch over Dak Prescott, certainly coming off a season like he did where he was the runner-up in the MVP race. So how much of the guaranteed money is he going to want to get? He's counting about $7 million against the cap. The Bills have about $9 million in cap space, so you'd have to imagine his number will eat up some of that. They also have to consider Tremaine Edmonds and a potential contract extension there. But as it relates to Josh Allen, you want to take care of him. And this is a guy that Brandon Beane, that Sean McDermott, that whole group, they obviously love him. He obviously loves being there in Buffalo. He's not going anywhere else. So I firmly believe that this is a deal that will get done because all parties want to get it done, because all parties are being very transparent about getting it done. It should be a fairly cut and dried contract, as far as a contract that may be worth $164 million over 4 years would be. But I do certainly believe that well before week 1 of this NFL season, Josh Allen will be under contract, potentially as the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
In this time between mini camps and training camps, it's kind of a downtime for the NFL, but there was some news. The NFL Combine going the way of the NFL Draft, which is all over the country. Why is the NFL opening up bidding for the Combine, which has been held in Indianapolis since the 80s?
Money.
I figured.
That's the only reason that you mess with a good thing. And you can talk with agents. I was just on the phone with an agent earlier today saying, gosh, I hope that they don't move it out of Indianapolis. On the phone with a personnel executive earlier today, said the same thing. As a media member, I love going to Indy. We have all our spots, we have the hotels, but from a team, from a player perspective, it is sad that ultimately the league is going to move out of Indianapolis, and we've known this for a little while. The league is wanting to continue to expand to become that $25 billion a year enterprise and industry that Roger Goodell has been talking about now for several years. And if you didn't have COVID, maybe it was going to get up to $17 or $18 billion. So this is another sort of step forward. They moved it into prime time 2 years ago. Now they're moving it out of Indianapolis, a place that has the infrastructure. It has the hotels, it has the hospitals, it has the restaurants, it has the convention space, it has the indoor facility, all of those things. Why would you move it out of there, Chris? The only reason is for money. So where is it going to go? Listen, for the last couple of years, we've all been bracing for this to leave Indianapolis, much to our chagrin, and move to Los Angeles once Stan Kroenke built that $5 billion paradise out there in Los Angeles. We know that the NFL has some offices out there as well. Certainly NFL media is out there. And so that is the clubhouse leader without question. Once it leaves Indianapolis, I think we can all sort of pencil in Los Angeles there. Where are some other places it can go? Well, if it's going to be any sort of rotation, you have to look at the Star in Frisco, Texas, what Jerry Jones has built out there. They certainly have the hotels, the infrastructure, nearby hospitals. You have to look at major cities, of course. And then hopefully, if there is a rotation, Indianapolis gets back in that rotation, and we see Indy host the Combine several times over in that rotation. But yeah, if you're a betting person and you want to say where the Combine is going to be in 2023, good bet on Los Angeles.
And one more year in Indy in 22, and then likely to LA, according to Jonathan Jones, joining us here on HQ. Check out the Pick Six podcast if you haven't already. It's your daily NFL picks hosted by Will Brinson. The latest episode ranking the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL and why Julio Jones does not make that list.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.